Some microphones on. There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Full Course Yellow. This is sort of our after-show chat session every Thursday night following In Pit Lane on Channel 31 Melbourne and the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Hope you're all well and keeping well, and thank you to everybody for joining us once again. Lots to talk about now. Lots of driver movements, not just in Formula One, but also in Supercars. I mean, I think that Supercars looked at what was happening in Formula One and went, we don't want to be left out of this. We want to play our own game of musical chairs. So that's all sort of happened. That's all sort of happened today. So welcome to everybody. We'll talk about Formula One and that at the moment. But we've got our regulars in once again joining us. Stuart Fairweather. We've got Chris Ritchie. We've got Doc, Craig Latigo. We've also got Richard Outram and Peter Johnson joining us this week. I'm only introducing everybody because the show is also now available as a podcast. Someone suggested last week, they said, I'd really be good. I couldn't stay and watch. It'd be really good if it was a podcast and I could listen to it later. And I went, yeah, well, okay, why not? So, so it is now a podcast available on Spotify as well as some other places as well. But if you go to Spotify, you can and look for Full Course Yellow. You can find us there as soon as I put it up, probably either later tonight or sometime tomorrow.
So we've got another promotion.
We have another multimedia.
Another set of initials next to our one format at a time.
Another set of initials next to our name. We've got all the letters of the alphabet soon.
Yes, it's all terribly exciting. But we've got we'll say hello to a few of the regulars. Gemini here. Thank you, Gemini. I hope you are well as well. Also, box. Just crossed over from there. Yes. I don't know if Doc you caught up with tonight's show with Moto Champion, but we might talk about that a little bit later. That was
I didn't catch it. I was doing some other things, but I love my therapy session. Usually the next day. I work Thursdays and have Fridays off at the moment, so I savour my In Pit Lane. If I'm not part of the show when we're in the studio, I savour the one you do from parts unknown behind the Iron Curtain. In the oasis that is the In Pit Lane studio, and I have to I'd savour that precious moment on Fridays with a lovely coffee in front of the TV and the beautiful spring sunshine beaming through the window.
There you go. Good day to Mad Cow Mark is joining us once again.
Why don't you, Matt?
We got there, Michael.
I'm asking about shoehorns then. I'm just saying Gemini 355, and I'm thinking that's a V8 in a Gemini. How the heck did you do that?
Wouldn't fit.
Yeah, with a little Vaseline and a gentle persuader.
Oh, really?
Shoehorn.
I'll leave it.
Yeah, there you go.
No one's coming.
No.
There, virtual A. Good idea putting it out on Spotify. I just, I mean, if you want to catch up, if you don't have time to sit there and just want to whack it in your ears and take it with you when you're travelling to work or mowing the lawn or doing the dishes or whatever the hell it is you're doing, you just want to catch up. By all means, do so. So we'll try.
Still, he's not with us at this stage tonight. He might join us like he does a belated when he gets his meal. Maybe his Uber Eats hasn't arrived yet, so he's usually delayed. But he'd sometimes. Oh, there you go. Stuart's all prepared up there with his tart, and that'll come across well on Spotify.
Been a long time since that's been said.
Stuart and his tart are on. Yeah. Well, still sometimes with travelling down to Phillip Island, for example, for the racetrack on Thursday nights, and he would Spotify In Pit Lane Full Course Yellow in his own way. He would USB through its Bluetooth through the car and listen to us, even though he didn't have us on screen as he was driving along, and comment in the background. So, but you go. But it's great. We've upgraded Spotify. Next, the world will be on Formula One channels next, or Supercar radio or something along those lines. That crazy stuff that.
Yeah, somewhere. I think the thing is it's a service I'm using, and they're putting up. It's actually run through Spotify, and they've put it up, and it popped up really quickly. But it will eventually sort of go to a number of other things, including eventually it will pop up on Apple Podcasts as well. But right now, if you're on Spotify, is a pretty good service on Spotify. If you're just part of that, you don't have to subscribe. It's a part of the podcast, or a part of the free service. So you've just got to put
I think the free service has a couple of little ads in between, which most people put up with it. And the paid version, you don't have the advertisements. So, but Spotify goes all the way around the world. It's just like most.
It does.
Yeah, so that's that's good. Yes, watch out, Radio Le Mans. So
Thank you.
We've got to have some. We've got to have some racing here to commentate first, so that way we can. Otherwise, we'll be using 5 virtual screens in our own living rooms and commentating it from there.
I think, John, if you're watching, I think, mate, I think you're pretty safe, aren't you? I think everything's safe there indeed. Brad, evening from Shakedown Sports Car and GT site. Yes, sports cars. More news on sports cars. BMW have now joined the party. I mean, everybody's coming back into sports car racing. Very exciting time.
Who's not? That is the question, Brett.
That's
not.
Well, Mazda is not. We know Mazda is not, because they've already said that they are not. That they're not.
They've drawn a line in the sand. Not playing ball.
Not so much drawn a line, more a Doritos shape that was banned from Le Mans.
Well, the thing is, it's not banned anymore. I mean, with the hypercar, if they chose to come in as a hypercar, not as an LMDH, they could run technically, according to the regulations, they now can run a rotary in a hypercar, I believe.
Oh,
so
rotor hypercar. Just imagine the noise.
Well, yeah, I mean, sort of the
naturally aspirated. None of this Rob Dam turbo stuff. Naturally aspirated, high revving.
And it'd have to be a big one to get that sort of power that they need. But as I think I said last week, the one thing that is being looked at is the possibility of using smaller rotary engines as power sources for electric cars. And we saw, if you watch the show tonight on Channel 31, if you didn't, go back and have a look on the YouTube channel, because we've got some footage of the Mission R, the new Porsche all-electric racing concept, and it looks really, really good. And 1,000 horsepower. It looks like a
Boxster that somebody plugged a 415 three-phase plug in the back of it, and it went, I'm tough.
I like it. I think it's a very cool car.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's yeah.
But 1,000 horsepower in qualifying trim, 640 horsepower in race trim. It will run for about half hour. The interesting thing is it will recharge basically up to usable 80% capacity in less than 15 minutes. So the technology is getting
Are they using lightning? That's just plugging into the nearest storm and take it all on board. Morning, RC. G'day.
Let's an interesting question from Brad as well. They're saying that the thoughts of the Bathurst International being run with supercars.
Yeah.
This is
6-day event.
I mean, I don't know what to think of this, because once again, it means the International is probably going to be playing second fiddle. If anything that runs with this was the fear of for the Bathurst 12 Hour when they took over the running of that at some stage that that supercars would say the opening round of the Australian Supercar Championship with support from the Bathurst 12 Hours.
Yeah, but it's going to be over 6 days, so it's going to be spaced. So it really means if we have to quarantine, we've got to take 3 weeks off as well.
Logistically, it would make sense.
But that's just
I can see benefits.
That was a side joke. Teams obviously outside New South Wales are going to have to take quarantine issues, going in, going out, all the precautions. Who goes first? Who goes second over the 6 days? The biggest speculation is the sponsors also too. We've got the clashing of Repco and Super Cheap Auto. Obviously, Super Cheap Auto just pulled the pin on Supercars and the backing for the championship. and have.
Well, they didn't pull the pin. It was Supercars that pulled the pin on them. So that was they wanted to stay, but they basically got outbid by Repco. Repco came in.
Yeah, excuse my French on that. Yep, we did discuss it earlier in the year. So apparently, though, there's going to be unanimous support from both parties that they're going to work something out with the sponsorship deal. So I imagine everyone will get up to put up a whole lot of billboards and a lot of foam around the track, etc., and it stays up for both events unless the car goes through it and obliterates it like they do sometimes. So, and it's not going to be first week of November, last week of November, like it was touted, like it was penciled in for. It's going to be a weekend in December. So that's going to interfere with people's, I don't know, end of year plans to a certain extent. So, yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff, but they're willing to work together on all fronts at the moment.
As long as it's not on Boxing Day.
That has to be a first by itself.
Yeah, you're right, Stuart.
The motorsport categories actually working together and talking to each other.
Yeah, I believe
we'll wake up in saddles on dog.
That could mean the sun isn't going to come up.
Yeah,
well,
I think you're probably
I can
right,
see
Richard.
that your telescope has moved from last week, so you've been looking at something outside your window. Anyway, it's not the sun.
I don't want to sound too nerdy, but all the planets are in alignment outside. But
Twilight Zone. There we go. What have we got, Backers?
Yeah, there we go. More COVID. Yeah, Victorian State Series, Phillip Island v Nationals, the Winton Energy Breakthrough, Maryborough. Yes, Gold Coast has been confirmed as cancelled, Paul. So
that one.
Yeah, so that's so Gold Coast 500 is officially off the calendar now. Formula Ford Nationals has been cancelled as well. Speaking with Pyark today, spoke with Pyark. They are ploughing on with plans for Island Magic at the end of November. And at this stage, the Victorian Historic Racing Register are continuing to keep their fingers crossed, but are ploughing on for the November Sandown Historic. So
anything probably October, start of October onwards is a chance to happen, but maybe not crowds. That's all it comes down to, I suppose.
Which is a great opportunity to live stream some of these events. And hello, if there's anybody watching and or listening and you would like your meetings live streamed, do us and
we
contact us.
We can even do it to a professional standard.
And we certainly can, provided you pay for it.
Yes, at a greatly reduced cost than what you would if it was a commercial station.
Not that greatly reduced.
Oh, well.
I think I speak for Mr. Fairweather when I say that we are sick to death of doing greatly reduced. Reduced, certainly. Greatly reduced, I think we've had enough of that.
Yeah, well, not reduced compared to Brighton.
Our generosity goes only so far, especially when we don't get paid on time.
Anywho, but yeah, you're looking at the two major states are going to be hitting their markers by the end of September, so it looks rosy. But as I said, maybe not spectators in October, but by the end of the year, you expect if you have a pass, COVID pass, you'll get it.
The interesting thing is the plans that were announced today by the New South Wales Premier Bin Chicken was basically it wasn't that exciting. It was pretty much yes, if you are vaccinated, if you're doubly vaccinated, they will allow an outdoor event up to 5,000 people. So I think that's what Supercars will be looking forward to for Bathurst. So we might have a Bathurst 1000, or even if we have the Speed Week concept. But I do like the Speed Week concept. I thought it would be a great Speed Week concept for the 12-hour if the week before the 12-hour they had the Bathurst, the Mount Panorama, the Bathurst Historic Festival of Motorsport. An historic meeting at Bathurst the week before.
8 days.
Well, you have a look at the week before. You'd have all those people who are coming out, at the start of the year for sports car. All those people in Europe who want to come out for a bit of summer holiday, catch up, get a few some hot weather. They're sports car people. They're hardcore sports car enthusiasts. if they could go along to something, if they could go to Bathurst, a bit like sort of, Le Mans and the Le Mans Classic, sort of, but do it the other way, do it sort of a Bathurst Historic Classic and the 12-hour as a sort of, and then in between you could have all sorts of things happening during the week. You could have, you could have time attack stuff. So you could have all sorts of things.
Lots of support categories.
Lots of things. Lots of things.
Just on that, I did see a little quote unquote from a former Shell V racing driver at Dick Johnson race at DGR, who said he will not be coming to Australia for the Bathurst 1000 there. 95% sure, he said. Yeah. 95, and he's quote unquote 95% chance I will not be coming over.
Yeah. I think that's obvious. That's obvious. That it's going to be hard. It'll be hard for him to get here. It will be hard for him to get back. And I think I think at the moment the best thing for Scotty to do is basically concentrate on where he is. I mean, he's settled into long term. He's settled into America now. America's the new home. His wife's American. He loves the place. He's comfortable there. I think he should just stay there, concentrate on that. Forget it. I know he wants to come back, but
he's got the support around him. He's got a couple of Aussies that are racing with him and in the pit, in the crew with him and stuff like that. So he's got the guys that he can hang out with and talk turkey with what's going on back home as well too. He's not going to be able to make a statement like, "Gee, those cats went all right last Saturday night, didn't they?" And everyone's going to look at him. What cats are you talking about? So he's got
something similar.
Well, anyway.
But anyway, as Brad's saying, your thoughts on Formula One driver moves. Okay, this is like pretty much as we all expected. But I mean, the music has officially stopped now, and everybody's grabbing a seat. Okay, so we know that sort of basically in wrestling terms, George Russell to AEW confirmed.
Whoa. Stop. Kimmy retired. Kimmy retired.
Yeah, that was the thing that started this all off. So Kimi retired. Valtteri Bottas is replacing him at Alfa Romeo. George Russell is replacing Bottas as we expected at Mercedes. Alex Albon has come back and is replacing George at Williams, which is interesting that they've chosen to bring him back. And Red Bull have and Mercedes have sort of done a deal, and I think it says something about how what both companies, what Mercedes and Red Bull both think of Albon's potential is the fact that they're very keen to see him in Formula One. I mean, that's the thing that that Red Bull said, that they really didn't want him sort of spending too long out of an open wheel. He's running around in the DTM at the moment. The interesting thing is he's running around the DTM. He's done reasonably well. He's not set the world on fire. The Red Bull driver that is setting the world on fire and did so last weekend is Liam Lawson from New Zealand. 19 years old, is still in second place in the championship, but won both races at the Red Bull Ring on the weekend. So and I think that they're now saying, well, where does he go? Because there's no room at the inn. There's so many talented drivers. Also, what happens with Oscar Piastri? Is he going to move, get a chance at some stage if he hangs on to win the Formula 2 championship? It's going to be. I can't see it.
Couple of bits and pieces to that. Big fan of Alex Albon. I think the narrative on that deal that you said, obviously both parties were happy with, is that Red Bull were working for a while behind the scenes to get him into an F1 drive again, because it was unfortunate he did lose his seat, and they both see the potential. But it was Red Bull that were pushing it. So somehow, I don't know if they've given any concessions or favours or IOUs or on bits of scribbled paper or something. But yeah, that was the narrative, that Red Bull have been working for a while behind the scenes to get that seat for him. And the other one is, I think Alfa Romeo are running a new livery this weekend as well too. And the other one was
Aston Martin
are running some 007 James Bond style
they're running the
livery
James
as well
Bond
too.
stuff. So
they're both, there's two teams running special livery this weekend as well too. So but I think big fan of Alex, and I think but the thing is, if you were saying there's this talent, you got these couple of young guys coming through, and obviously they're from our continents over this direction. The trouble is, though, the field's a little bit younger than what it was in the last few years at F1 level now. They're going to struggle to get a spot. They're just going to have to run around in circles underneath.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think what has been playing, what's been announced this afternoon, or not as an official thing, but it's certainly a suggestion from Stefano Domenicali, is that he would like to see it compulsory on the Friday, for one session on the Friday to be put aside only on a regular basis, only for the young drivers, to the next generation, to sort of bring them up to speed and let people have a look at them, because they know that there's this logjam. And the problem they've got now, and we mentioned it with BMW coming into the IMSA and possibly World Endurance Championship, with all these sports car, these major manufacturers moving into sports car racing. A lot of these young talented young drivers, I mean, like Oscar and Teo Pachir and all of those sort of people, might be sitting there and going, look, I'm not going to get to Formula One. I could make a real good living for myself. If I can't drive for Ferrari in Formula One, I can drive for Ferrari in the World Endurance Championship, or I can drive for BMW in the IMSA North American Sports Car Championship. Still, be racing really, really good cars. So many, opportunities opening up in that area. So I think Formula One have got to do something in order to. And as the other suggestion was that they would like, I think it's Christian Horner is saying, we really need a couple more teams. And the problem of having more teams is they've got to pay some ridiculous amount of money to basically compensate the existing teams for the money that they will lose by having another couple of teams. Similar to the situation in Supercars, where you've got the entitlement the racing entitlement contracts. It's like, if they invite more, there's plenty of people who want to run in the main game, but the more people who get involved, the thinner you've got to slice the pie up. So
absolutely. Look, I think everyone agrees, and Christian and a couple of the other people that have probably been around the paddock for many, many moons now, we're probably taking a step back, thinking, well, yeah, we're on a decent crust. We could lose a few dollars with new teams, but those teams at the fringe ones, when they come in, there's the bottom feeders that are struggling as it is, and have folded and have had to be bought out, and someone's bought them and blah, blah, blah. So they've got to do something as far as constraints, budgets, penalties, points, you name it, to get an extra 3 or 4 cars on the grid out there, because when other teams have entered before over the last 10, 20 years, they sometimes have folded and struggled, and they've got to have a lot of capital behind them. So unless they've got a Richard Branson or Elon Musk or an Amazon tycoon, or even Gina Reinhardt over here is a billionaire in Australia, but she sponsors a lot of the Olympic swimmers at the moment. But Richard,
Chris, hang on.
Let's see her get into an F1 car.
yeah.
All right.
I can't see her getting in and out of a bath, let alone.
I was about to say, I can't see her getting in the pool. She'd make quite a splash.
Yeah. So I think it's called a tsunami, is the way they're talking about it.
Imagine
look out Japan.
Money, Ben.
Look out Japan. There's another one coming your way.
As Brad's saying, Stefan Rattel announcing the Intercontinental Challenge later in the year. As far as I know, they are still intending to run that in February. Because as you say, there's nothing else in terms of clashes. They can the teams, the European team, but they have. The Bathurst 12 Hour has already said that they're going for this year. They're going to concentrate, or next year, they're going to concentrate on the Asian and local drivers to try and make it happen. Because I just can't see how they're going to get. I just see how they're. I just don't see how they're going to get around the quarantine thing, and unless they decide that as they've decided in some parts that if everybody's everybody's vaccinated, and Sydney Motorsport Park has already said, and this will be true of almost everywhere. Nobody will be getting into Sydney Motorsport Park without being double vaccinated. If you're not fully vaccinated, you are not going to Sydney. And they've already said that to some of the supercar teams. The supercars are saying, well, we're not going to force anybody to do anything.
But if you want to.
But if you want to keep working, if you want to make the next round, you'd better get a vaccine or have a bloody good reason for not getting one.
Just going back to Formula One, just to put a full stop behind it as well, though, too, because obviously we've been asked by our viewers and listeners tonight who are the F1 spots. Obviously not just us. The Formula One teams will be thinking about next year on who's going to be driving for what team. So if you look at the driver changes on who's going into this year and who's obviously got contracts and how many years deal on it, who's going to open up the spots? Alonso has indicated he'll go for one more year. Will he retire next year, or will he move on, or will he stay? Because he said while he's enjoying his driving, he will keep racing. And if they, by mutual agreement, he has another good season, will he stay another year? Will Lewis Hamilton ever retire? There's a huge amount of speculation. Didn't he look like the banana splits during the week? I saw a couple of photos of him. The guy is just getting, he'll be wearing a bloody a safari suit soon.
Pete, have you heard anything regarding? You said that, of course, Lewis will retire at some stage, and you'd have to think that if he won. Well, he probably won't win this year, but if he won next year, you'd have to say he'd have nothing else to prove. And even if he doesn't win, I mean, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that it might sort of push him to retire a little bit early if he gets to next year and finds that this kid called George is beating him on a fairly regular basis,
pushing his buttons?
I think if that happens, then he will retire, and I think Fernando might have another year, but it'll eventually get to, because you age, of course, so it'll eventually get to a point where he'll retire, and that'll probably be in a couple of years, and then Oscar Piastri will probably come in then.
Who else is going to go next year? We've got Alonso and Hamilton. Who else is unless they kick him out or push him out of the teams? Who else is retired? Sergio's a chance of maybe losing his seat at Red Bull, but
I wouldn't.
Who else is gone?
I think Sergio and Fernando and Lewis have all got another year at least. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, Vettel's got it. You'd have to think that Vettel is not going to,
one more,
go
maybe 4 seats next year then?
Much longer. The thing is, for Fernando might have the possible out once again of the sports car option if Alpine decide to join. I mean, everyone expected them to make the announcement at Le Mans. They didn't make the announcement at Le Mans, so you're expecting Alpine will come on board with their own hypercar or their own LMDH car, and in which case they've got a Le Mans winner ready to step in there. And even if he doesn't decide to stay with Alpine, I mean, Fernando Alonso driving a Ferrari hypercar wouldn't be a bad idea.
Just one last thing. Only saw it on the news tonight. Did anyone catch Mad Max running around Italy, doing burnouts and around the streets in the last 24 hours? It was a great show. They must have shut down part of Italy for him to be able to do it. Had a lot of bit of fun, and it sounded really good. Yeah,
I haven't got it. They've sent me the link for that. It's interesting. Yeah, so
it's I won't give away too much of a spoiler, but he suddenly has to brake, not totally Formula One style, but it has to brake for a particular thing crossing the road, which is a great looking scene. So, and he does a couple of doughies as well too in the middle of Italy. So a great thing. Check out that package from Red Bull and over in Italy. And I suppose while we're at it, I might as well. Ackers is down there saying Hamilton needs to retire from F1 at the top and not do a Rossi and hang around for a couple of years. I reckon you're right there, Ackers. I think maybe 1 year too long. 1 year was probably too long. Last year he was fairly competitive, and he's such a rich history himself and such a fan favourite for all the way around the world. But yeah, probably should have been the end of last year. But at least he's hung up the. He's hung up the boots at the right time when he would have just been stringing out. And thank you to Stuart there for showing the vision of Max running around the
with no sound.
Keeping
the sound off.
Yes, I have noticed that. But yeah, there's a little taste of here it is.
And that'll do.
Yeah, that'll do. Otherwise, you might get copyright.
Yeah,
for the
if you by the way, if you're watching tonight's show on the YouTube channel, you will notice some a couple of strange cuts because yes, the dreaded YouTube copyright algorithm did rear its ugly head for the first time with DTM actually, and once again the surprising thing was the copyright the claim didn't come from DTM, it actually came from Red Bull. So who are very
tips for Monza then anyway, guys.
So
Sorry?
Tips for Monza?
It's going to be hard to go past the Red Bulls. I mean, it's a top-end speed track.
I actually think Lewis Hamilton or the Mercedes, because it's such a long, straight track.
Yeah, but top-end speed is where the Red Bull takes over. The Mercedes has got the power for coming out of the corners and midway down the straights, but the top end of it's the Red Bull that's always had the top speed.
It'll be interesting in terms because obviously the Red Bull seems to have the better dynamic handling rather than so they might be able to trim the aero. The Mercedes have been running quite a bit of extra aero, which is what is affecting their top speed to an extent. So yeah, it'll certainly be interesting. I mean, Monza is always interesting, and you can't. I mean, whatever happens, you know that Ferrari are going to be quick, at least whether it's in practice or qualifying. But at some stage, somehow, Ferrari will find a way to be there and be competitive. If anywhere in the world, it's going to be at Monza. But yeah, once again, a special mention to Remy Gardner on course to win Moto 2, and that's going to be helped considerably by the fact that his main rival in the championship and his teammate, and yet again, do not ride bicycles. Bicycles are dangerous. Stay off bicycles because Fernandez has broken his hand. It's not a bad. I don't think it will keep him out. It'll probably be more annoyance than anything, but it might, and if it does, then that's going to be a real boost for.
Even if he does right, he might. I'm not sure which hand is it. Well, I haven't read the article left or right hand, but obviously left's your clutch, right's your accelerator. So I haven't checked yet. Clutch is usually harder than accelerator because you're pulling on the thing, and I mean you can change the feeling, obviously the pressure.
What?
But
you need to use a clutch.
Yes, you do on a
match
motorbike.
the revs.
Yes, you can do that quite well if you're experienced. But
I can do that on a Valiant. I can do that on a security car.
I have driven from one side of Melbourne with the clutch cable snapped, and I've driven a 5-speed manual across Melbourne that way too by using the revs. However,
the traffic lights are problematic.
I'm just saying, on a bike, it might be a little bit tougher, especially at the level that they're at, even if it's Moto 2. So, anyway, yes, you get the revs right, but they also have a different thing. So, accelerator is going to be easier with the right hand, clutch with the left hand. So, anyhow, for layman's terms. Remy's probably going to take that as a, I suppose, as a confidence boost and think, well, I'm going to trump him anyway.
Yeah, well, he was so good last time out that I think he's looking like pretty much odds on to win that championship, and he's comfortable now. I mean, he's been such a better rider since the announcement was made because I think he's under less pressure now because he knows what his future is now. He knows he's going into the main event. He's going with there, and so is Fernandez for that matter. So really, it's just for pride at the moment and to be able to say that yes, I was the champion. But
just got to answer Aiden's before we move on to Supercars or something else quickly on the bike. So there's not much to talk about on the MotoGP this week. Dobby's getting a little bit of interest on whether there's a bit of here there. Is he a fill-in or is he back or blah blah blah. Good to see Dobby back, full stop, because there's not much news coming out of Aragon this week really at all. So it's a bit early in the week and it's been quiet. They've had a week off, but so yeah, stay tuned. We'll have a big wrap up of MotoGP next week because it's usually all guns blazing during the race, and it's been really entertaining this year on the MotoGP.
Yeah, good track too.
Yeah, good track, Aragon. Aidan Chatfield, good question. This is just a consensus. This is what's coming out of the media from overseas and in Europe, etc. With teams pulling out of Formula E at the start of the year, or touting there are, wanting to, it's sort of waning a little bit. It's losing its popularity, Formula E, a little bit. It's not the go-to thing for drivers to go to Formula E. When the hype first started off Formula E, these things fly. And yeah, they're great cars, don't get me wrong, and they're probably good for skills, but they're just top end drivers. It's not their first option to go to the Formula E at the moment.
I think Aiden's saying, will Australia get a Formula E race? I know that it was very close. I believe that it was fairly close. I mean, both Sydney and Adelaide were, I believe, looking at it, but Adelaide had to change the government. But yeah, well, I think that's the problem.
Hang on. Let's be serious for a moment. If anywhere in Australia is going to get a Formula E race, it should be Melbourne, because we could just put a lead up from the car to the tram lines and run a street race.
You could run an enduro. I mean, yeah, if you don't run that,
you could enter a train.
Yeah,
24 hours of Melbourne CBD.
I like that. The Formula E, the Melbourne 24-hour. Yeah, running.
They've been talking about Sydney street races in the last 2 weeks, which will never happen anyway for supercars. Why not do a test? Why not run Formula E at Sydney for a test run to see the supercars?
Well, it was fun. It was funny. So Formula E, when they released the artist impressions of the next generation car, were putting out. They put out photos, artist impressions of them running around Sydney, and so everyone accepted that they were going to go to Sydney. But no,
don't start Richard again.
Richard's gone.
Just pictures of rainbows going through an oil painting. Anyway,
I can see those dodging cars with that thing running across.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
With the sparks coming out.
Coming off, exactly.
I'd love you to go out there in your XL with the Formula E's running and give them a run for their money. Exactly. Just put some wings.
No, you can't hear
virtual R's on board with the Melbourne CBD Formula E 6 hours. So
if you're going to do a Formula E, just stay away from the middle of the track there where all the water is too. You might get electrified.
As Box is saying, there's already a Formula E race, the Solar Challenge. So that was probably the first. That was the first, and probably then that is an enduro. That's a genuine enduro. So
some great stuff that come out of those cars over the years. Have actually got the technology's gone into the real McCoy.
Well, we've seen that. We see them quite regularly up at RMIT. I mean, if you wander around, there, it's amazing. If you wander around RMIT, you sort of find all sorts of things. There's a hydrogen powered radical at Carlton, at the Carlton building, the one where our old studio used to be. If you go down into the basement there, you sort of walk through and you sort of trip over a radical which is actually powered by hydrogen. So between that and the Formula SAE cars, the electric and the Aurora, the solar powered car. There's actually quite a few racing cars floating around Formula.
Gathering a lot of dust at the moment everywhere. A lot of cars everywhere gathering.
They've been actually the radical looked pretty secondhand. The tyres were flat, and I was thinking, I mean, if they took all the hydrogen running gear out of it, they could actually sell it and make probably get a bit of money. But
nice one, Rusty. Tram Pentagram.
There is one other option for electric racing that would actually be more spectacular.
Oh God, that's the air. What are they? Airspeeder.
Man.
Yeah, the racing.
Airlander, Airspeeder. Those are the size of Formula Fords.
Yeah, I'll have some titanium around.
Yeah, I'll believe them. I'll believe when I see them.
Getting back to originals. Where was this comment I saw earlier that I don't think we had a look at? Yes, Mr. Van der Acker.
With the bank.
Yes, Van Vert. Yeah,
just read it out for our.
Was boring. The race was boring.
I'll let you go.
Yes,
Stuart.
Max was out in front and what have you, but where was the passing and what have you?
Spotify listeners,
it was
so with the
not
bank
an
corner so
enjoyable-
popular at Zandort, maybe they should reconnect the banking at Monza. Stuart.
Monza, yes, but the rebuild of the track would be the amount of money that would have to go into that because the banking has had no maintenance work on it for decades. It's in worse condition than Calder Park's bank.
Well, that's saying something.
Okay.
Love Calder
But
Park.
yes, it would be a lot better, especially for people who've seen the movies with the Formula One races in the 1960s running around that. It's a little bit dangerous the way it should be. It would be fast. Monza, yes. Zandvoort, boring.
Yeah, it wasn't a good race. I mean, it would have been great to drive. It would have been wonderful fun to drive, and all the drivers loved it. I mean, the drivers, Dan Ricciardo, everybody said it was a fabulous, fabulous track to drive. They really enjoyed every second of it. But in terms of passing, there wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot of it, and it was pretty. It was a pretty dreary sort of race, but it made for good photographs, and the atmosphere was. Everybody who went and said the atmosphere was just insane. But
now I'd like to pick up on one of your
Well,
lower
if you were
thirds.
Dutch, it was insane. Yeah.
But I'll read out Knackers first. If any of the panels has seen the annual energy breakthrough at Maryborough each year, it started with pedal power, but now has battery pedal-powered hybrid trikes running a 24-hour race. Thanks, Knackers. Very good insight there, my dear chap.
Yeah, they that thing. There was also the one down at Wonthaggi that ran, which was a pedal powered thing as well for mostly schools. A bit like sort of like a non-powered, a human powered. Formula SAE competition, lots of schools, great atmosphere, very similar to Formula SAE. Lots of schools. Went down. We covered that many years ago on the show. We went down to Wonthaggi and covered that. So the RACV used to be the sponsors of that. So I'm not sure. I think it was still running for a while, but in terms of passing, Mark, who is not a big fan, I don't think, of our Daniel, is passing was going on around Ricciardo.
Yeah, but
He made a spot up on the start and then stayed there.
Go Pete. You're going to defend him. Go Pete.
by the same token, eventually he was given team orders because Lando was higher than him, and he's higher than him in the championship. So he was sort of snookered by team orders. So
he also had car problems as well, didn't he? At at the start.
Yeah.
He has a clean year. If he has a clean year, he's got no excuses next year. They've got to have a crack. That's unless he gets bloody shunned by Lando, and they keep on telling him, no, you got to do this, got to do that. But let's just. He's going to have to make a really gun ho start next year and say, right, you probably consider me being the number 2 driver at the moment, but if he has a couple of good races at the start of next year and can match it with Lando, they're going to have to reconsider the position with the 2 drivers, and they're going to have to put them on equal footing. So that's up to Daniel to see how he goes at the start of the year. You might as well just write the year off, get the most you can get out of it, do the best you can, learn from it, take in everything like that, develop the car, develop the relationships with your team, so that way you've got the support there next year. You're not going to be, and prove that you can drive in the right situation and pick your fights. But he's going to have to have a good crack at it at the start of next year. Otherwise, he's going to get wasted as well again.
I was thinking this just recently. I'm just wondering whether sort of Dan's found his, your water always finds its level. Has he found his level, and is his level basically as sort of what Captain Blood Jack Dyer used to call in football a good ordinary player? Is he sort of is he a good number 2? Like a really good number 2.
The new Rubens Barrichello.
Or is he, can he actually, is he a chance at ever winning a championship? And at the moment, it certainly doesn't look like it.
Oh, I could say he's even better than Valtteri.
New Rubens Barrichello.
He'd be even better Valtteri as a number 2. And Stuart's suggesting he could if he had the longevity and stayed with the same team, he could be a great Rubens forever.
Do you think Michael Schumacher would have won that many championships if he didn't have Rubens Barrichello as a teammate?
Yeah, good thing. Knackers has just put up for our spot listeners, RACV pool funding and personal personnel from Energy Breakthrough suddenly a couple of years ago, so others stepped in up to run it. COVID has affected the last couple of years. So look, hopefully there's a big revival as far as the solar and energy or combined or pedal power from up in Alice Springs down to South Australia in the next couple of years. It gets universities get back on.
That's the one thing. That was the one thing. One was the energy breakthrough. So
cool.
So that was mostly high schools and all the rest of it. There's also, there's so many of these things. We've got Grand Prix in schools. We've got this thing. We've got the Maryborough one that's been running for a long time now. So there's a few opportunities for young people to get involved. And speaking of which, next week on the program, our special guest will be talking about the program called Beat the Heat. If you remember going out to Calder Park at any stage for the drags and watching Smokey One, the cop car, the yellow Commodore that was out there. That whole project has now sort of expanded and become a part of a much bigger project now called Beat the Heat. And just in the last few days, Beat the Heat, as well as many other grassroots motorsport events and organisations and clubs, have received some very good funding from the Victorian state government to be able to expand their project, to get new equipment, and we'll be talking to Daniel Chamberlain about that next week, so you can find out more about Beat the Heat and how they're going to be spending some of that money to bring get more young people involved in the sport and to use motorsport as a way to help out young people and young people who are doing it tough around Australia, make the sport more accessible to them, and use the skills that are required in motorsport to help young people find work and to give them a bit of a sense of pride and responsibility. So Gemini's the old VK, the old yellow VKs. Yeah.
And our tech guru Stuart's looking it up for us now, finding some stuff on it. While we're doing that, we might also start touching on supercars, because I think you've made a point that pricked my ears up on our graphics tonight, is the Matt Payne scenario. Will he take over from SVG down the track? Will Brock Feeney prove his worth and not get shoveled out the door and give Matt Payne a go? Will he get dropped into a customer team to start off before he makes it to the Red Bull? He seems to be a kid that's it's on everyone's radar, Matt Payne, at the moment.
Matt Payne has to get a license first.
That's it. Yeah, so that's it, Pete. Yeah, he's got to get the. He's got to get that dispensation, and the fact is, if they didn't give the,
I'm talking long term down the track though. For what team? I'm not talking about a one-off race.
I think at this stage, look, he's clearly got a lot of talent. He's yet another one of these, very fast New Zealand drivers who's coming out here. He's got a lot of backing from people in New Zealand, and obviously the Grove organisation, have got big raps on him. So, look, I think he can be very, very successful. But as Pete said, he's got to get the dispensation first, and as they didn't grant that dispensation to Nathan Hearn with Gary Rogers Motorsport, I think it'll take a lot of explaining from Motorsport Australia to suddenly say that no, he's fine, but Nathan wasn't, because Nathan was running in Trans Am. Well, I'm not sure whether Porsche and the difference. I know, there is a difference in performance, but it's not that great a difference. And I'd say probably the Trans Am, the TA2 cars are probably a little bit even closer in their handling. I'm talking
about next year when he's now part of the Red Bull Academy in the Supercar for the Red Bull. He started off in that next year, so I'm not talking about whether he gets his license now or in 15 years' time. I'm talking about when will he get the seat in it. At Red Bull racing down the track, and who's going to give way to him as well too, because as you said though, the romper room is on its way. It hasn't finished like it has at Formula One yet. We've got spots dropping here, opening there. The Percat one was a bit of a surprise because everyone thought he was pretty happy there at Brad Jones.
Well, he signed a contract, and that's the thing. But it says, as you well know, within football, contracts. Contracts don't seem to be worth the paper they're written on nowadays. But whether it's a mutual decision, we haven't heard too much about. The story broke this afternoon. The rumour's been around for a while, but Auto Action have run with it, and I'm not sure that whether we've had any sort of formal confirmation as yet, because they haven't had time to sort of chase it up, but certainly, certainly at this stage.
The other big one during the
move.
week was the Fullwood move over to Tickford to drive the Mustang and take middies through with him, and also I read at the same time that Lee Holdsworth has definitely got a seat in Tickford next year as well too. So look, the rumour mill's going left, right, and centre at the moment.
Yeah, and that of course, like what happens with Jack LeBrock and the people out there, because we know that Tom Randall is obviously got one of the seats as well, and Cam Waters. So
Moster's going nowhere at Walkinshaw as well too.
Yeah, well, Percat will join Chaz, and so that's a really impressive lineup when you have a look at it. That's a good lineup between Mostert and Percat together, because Nick has proven himself to be very, very quick on occasions, and with a top team, I mean he might find a bit more consistency. So so let's have a look at how that goes. I mean, whether they've got any. Whether they've got anywhere they're actually going to be able to race, I mean, for next year's, we'll have to see how it goes.
You mentioned Grove just a few seconds ago. Grove's putting some dollars and investing some time and effort into their Porsche stable as well too, to bring drivers through for Supercars as a fostering ground as well.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, when he took over, when he got involved with Kelly Brothers, and now has eventually sort of bought them out and taken over. Everyone automatically assumed that his sons would sort of jump in and take the seat, but at this stage, at least, that hasn't happened. So that's a good sign in a way that they're sort of it's not just an automatic sort of Lance Stroll scenario where it's Dad owns the team, so son is going to be the driver. It's Dad might own the team, but son's going to have to earn it, and he's a very good driver, and he'll certainly be a part of their endurance scenario for that for the one endurance race that we have. I mean, that's a bit of a pain.
I think we're probably the only team we may not see a driver change is at the Shell V-Power, because they got long-term contracts when they locked them in last year with Anton. And,
so did Percat and BJR. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Other than that, well, yeah.
And let's face it, if everything fell apart in the United States with Scotty, if sort of it didn't work out for one reason or another,
he could come back and drive for Richard.
Yeah, and suddenly, I mean, he could come in and jump alongside of you in the Hyundai. Mm. I saw a Hyundai the other day advertised for sale for $50,000.
Yeah, I told you that the price had become insane.
That's ridiculous.
Well, I might have to build a spare one. I can't afford to buy one.
Well, I saw on Facebook Kevin Stoopman put up an ad for his car from about 6 years ago, and it was like a competitive car at the time, and it was being sold for, I think it was $7,500, and now they're going for $20,000-$30,000 plus. It's crazy. Oh yeah, that's one thing I want to point out. Russell Clark saying Cam Waters' new sprint car rides look fantastic.
Yellows.
Yeah, they do. They look spectacular.
You can probably look that one up, Stuart. There you go. Just look up the yellow and black.
They do. They look. Like they can sing the song now. Yellow and black. Yeah.
Exactly. And the other one as well, though, too. I don't know. Obviously, it's a bit quiet, and he said he's committed with Gary Rogers Motorsport as well, though, too, is Jimmy Golding. He never fulfilled his potential at Supercars. I mean, if Lee Holdsworth has got a gig back again, it's all about sponsorship and the backing and the money and that sort of jazz.
Well, there's no space. I mean, if you don't have people sort of moving out, I mean, and there's most of the guys at the top at the moment. I mean, now that Jamie's moved out, I mean, Shane's still young, and Cam and Mostert and pretty much everybody is young there. I mean, you could possibly say, could they look at people like Will Davison and Fabian Coulthard and a few of those others to move us? But they're not. None of them are old. I mean, let's face it. None of them are. I mean, I'd like to be as
Try yellow and black one, Stuart.
Yeah, that's his old one. Yeah, I had the
I just like that photo when I saw it, and I'm curious now who the photographer was. The photographer for that one.
Should be able to bring it up in a couple of seconds.
That's actually on the Supercars webpage. That one. So
the yellow and black one.
The one I just showed. Actually, that was Corey Gibson. Corey, there's some talent there. That is a great photo.
Yeah, in terms of Paul saying in terms of the XL's heading in the same directions as HQ, they're going to run out of donor cars and parts. They're running everywhere. Huge grids. It's the car of choice for junior sedans in Speedway. They're also running lots of cars running in rallying at the moment.
Yeah.
They have become a really popular and unlikely popular little car for sort of grassroots motorsport. So it's going to be harder and harder to get hold of them. And as Richard will no doubt tell you, in terms of a lot of the wreckers have suddenly realised what they're being used for now and are charging appropriate prices.
Not all of them, but I won't tell you anything more.
What they believe is appropriate.
What do we got there?
I'm not finding it.
That's
Shots of an iPhone don't really work well, do they?
I know. Sorry, it's
getting
clear, but that's what it looks like. So it's got McQueen on it, and that's a fluorescent yellow and black. So it's really bright. The 1980s fluoro yellow. So it's brighter than a button.
Yeah, it's a good looking car. It's on his Facebook page. So if you follow Cam on Facebook, check out
Facebook on this computer.
Yeah, check out that there's photos.
I'll enlarge
photos
one of the shots, and that might give you a better look at it.
But it's really
this is great television.
Even better radio.
Yes, good on the podcast.
I have described it the best way I can, at least in fluorescent yellow and black. So
check it out. There, Paul's put up the link.
Thanks,
link there. Sort of Facebook. Cam Waters 94 is the one. So look for Cam Waters 94 and follow Cam and you can have a look at his sprint cars. And that means he's got both the 410 and the 360. The 360 will hopefully race at Nyora, and we might be able to actually live stream it because we did promise them last year that if the sprint cars came back that we would live stream it, and we'd like to actually get a chance to do that.
Just get out and brush the dust off our shoulders again and have a bit of fun. That'd be good.
There you go. There you go. Stuart has there. He has found it. He has found it there with the NZ support as well. There, it looks really. That will stand out. That will look good on television.
Yeah, the graphic just sharpened itself too. Well done. Excellent. Thank you. With the Hoosiers all around.
Yeah, so that'll look really good. Okay, so I think that's about that sort of covers just about everything. And Paul Shaw said today's 1600 Datsun doesn't handle. Trust me, they don't handle as well as a 1600 Datsun. I had a 1600 Datsun, and they handled a bit better than an XL, I would say. And they're a bit faster too, a lot faster, but they're also worth a lot more.
Datsun 1600 is not that fast.
It is when you put it.
TS driver, I can tell you that a Datsun 1600 is not as fast as you think it is.
It is when you whack a turbocharged 2-litre in them.
Speaking of not a turbocharged 2-litre, but a big V8, our friend Mick Webb, who I keep in touch with quite regularly these days, has got a whole another SVO stuff up for sale. So jump on Facebook as well too, or any of the other Ford forums on the FB pages, and Mick has got some new SVO stuff going out left, right, and centre. I've got to catch up with the man really soon and get a motor rebuilt with you, Mick, if you're listening. So, one of the legends of Australia. We had Mick at the start of the year on the show. Doc and I went around to his workshop and had a chat, and hopefully we'll get. He invited us over for beers. He did. We had a couple of, so we thought we'll take the camera along too. We might as well. But great, nice guy, and lots of toys in there, including that Camaro sports sedan, the X. Now I've lost Bob Middleton. I think the ex Bob Middleton car. right.
And
we've got to get around and see our mates Tom Randall around the corner too when we soon and have a look at his decked out sim racing area, because a lot of the guys like Jordan Caruso and Thomas Randall and I think Will Brown might have done, Bryce Ford, a few of the fringe guys in Supercars as well though too are filling in some time for some Supercars, and they're doing some different tracks around the world, including I think Daytona was last night. They were all having a bit of fun and causing carnage, I heard. So they're just filling their time for kicks and giggles at the moment. So if you're really, really, really bored and you don't want to go watch dodgem cars go around the Melbourne Grand Prix circuit like Richard does, you can jump on a bit of the sim racing and have a laugh at the guys.
At least the dodgem cars are real.
Yeah, and they will throw you back out.
Yeah. Well, I throw my back out, that's for sure. It doesn't take much to throw my back out.
You'll get in, but you won't get out.
Yeah, I'll get. Actually, the last time I did buy I was talked into jumping into a dodgem car with the idea that it's only they don't be ridiculous. It's like they're just a dodgem car, and I was very, very sore when I got out of. There, Aidan just saying, yes, the new gen, the NASCAR testing videos. If you go to the NASCAR YouTube channel, there's some great footage from the Gen 3 NASCARs. They were doing testing at Daytona. They were lots of drafting testing, and you can hear the new engines and see the new cars. Cars look pretty good. They sound. I don't know. I mean, we might try and play some of that on the show, but yeah. That's okay.
Chatters, you just remind me as well, though, too, the Gen 3 Supercar wheels. Some pics have been released as well. Yes, as well, too. I caught my eye as well there, too. They're not giving us real good specs of it, but they don't look too bad. Apparently, they're going to be very shiny and bright and appealing.
Oh, well, let's stop the front pages, everybody. New supercar wheels. This is how desperate we are to try and get news at the moment. We're running stories on the shininess and brightness of new supercar wheels. I mean,
well, just before you wrap things up completely, Brett, I have one request as well, too. Richie, I want your best weekend at Bernie's impression, please, before we go. That's it. Good. Thank you very much.
Just a clue: the fuel flow meters in F1 cars are ultrasonic.
Oh, wait, sorry. Bernie speaks. Sorry, he's supposed to be dead, but he's with us. Sorry. What was that, Bernie?
The fuel flow sensors in F1 cars are ultrasonic.
Oh, here we go. Stilly and Stewart can't argue about it this week because there's only one of them here and can't defend themselves.
The way you cheat them is to push more fuel during the redundancy cycle, which means it turns off and then turns back on and samples every now and again.
You've been doing your
all
research.
F1 cars as of 2020, which is last year.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
So they're ultrasonic.
Have two ultrasonic fuel sensors. One is
they're
the ultrasonic sensor, and the other one is the FIA's ultrasonic sensor, which has an encrypted data acquisition system.
Encrypted.
Yeah. So, Chris,
keep going.
This is
Let
007 stuff.
Let him go.
Hang on, I just want to know. You said they're ultrasonic, right?
Yes.
Are they hydromatic?
When you say hydromatic,
I got it. Okay, everybody. Thanks a lot. That's all we got time for. Yeah, on that note,
you've given something for Chris to look up for next week as well, though. Too.
Oh, don't look up Grease Lightning. You go. Grease.
I thought you were going to do
now
something.
Everybody else gets it.
Can you get some blinker fluid for us next week, please?
blinker fluid. Right.
Tell me more. Okay. Well, we'll see you. We'll see.
Drivers, anyone?
We will see you next week on Full Course Yellow after In Pit Lane. As I said, if you're interested in some drag racing news and also some other stuff that beat the heat, it was really interesting conversation with these guys, and also really interesting to see how they're spending this Victorian government money. There's been quite a lot of money has been splashed around over the last year or so. Oakley Gardens Go-Kart Club are making
They can
major
give it to
improvements
us.
to their track. They could certainly give it to us. But anyway,
And
that's all we've got.
all our viewers and listeners next week, if you can get back to us, you hear any goss around the traps on what meetings are going to be on the next few weeks, the next couple of months. Give us some goss, because we get across a lot all here, us guys at In-Pit Lane, but we don't see and hear everything. So if you see anything out there that's going to be happening, even some of the big car shows and events and coffees and lives, all that sort of stuff, get back to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, everybody, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us on Full Course Yellow, and remember to tune into In-Pit Lane next Thursday night, 9 o'clock, on Channel 31 on the CTV Plus online channel, and also on the In-Pit Lane YouTube channel as well. So from all of us here, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next week. Bye for now. See you later.
Bye.